Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you very much to Caroline and to Agnieszka and to all the sponsors for organizing this great exhibition. Yes, I'm from architecture, so what is architecture to do with the nuclear? Well, a lot. You will see that where architecture is actually inseparable from the nuclear in different senses. So, for example, this is the cover of Arts and Architecture magazine in 1946, an atomic head by Herbert Matter, at the time working for the Eames office, and this is the Eames house. The magazine Arts and Architecture was sponsoring the case study houses in California. So what is interesting here is on the cover, you have the atomic bomb, but the houses, the case study houses that the magazine was sponsored represent idealized images of post-war domesticity in the setting precisely of modern architecture, right? But the atomic head of Herbert Matter, of course, conveys existential anxiety, the existential anxiety of the moment that is precisely hidden by modern architecture. So the nuclear house consists precisely on a happy, colorful, beautiful modern house on the lawn and a bomb shelter underneath. Even the rehearsal of going into the shelter is presented as a kind of game. No? This is War Games, is the caption of this picture in the popular press. So post-war America, you can say, is split in two. The lawn represents this divided psyche. On the surface, modern architecture, consumerism, or smiles. Underneath, anxiety and the threat of nuclear annihilation. And you have all these things that are supposed to be in the bomb shelter, and you don't see here, but one of the recommendations of the US government is tranquilizers, right? So you have to have at least 100 pills, they say, for a family of 4. But my question is, why is modern architecture the face of the nuclear? Why is it representing the unrepresentable nuclear destruction? And why, even more interesting, when the nuclear, sorry, I went too fast, the nuclear energy for peace, the campaign, again, modern architecture turns out to be what represents this new thing, and is offering precisely new images of domesticity in a kind of propaganda effort that is best communicated in popular fairs, such as the House of the Future in the Daily Mail exhibition in London of 1956, where Alison and Peter Smithson presented their House of the Future. And here is the context, 1956, a bunch of very traditional houses, and the House of the Future is what you see in the end. So an all-enclosed box, you know, and inside there is another box. So a box inside a box. The windows that you see here are only so that you can see the house in the exhibit, but in fact, as you can see, it's a box inside a box, and the visitors circle around the box, and through these halls, peek into this interior. Then they go up and look down into this house. But the house, as you can see in the plan, is completely hermetically closed to the outside. It's a kind of bomb shelter. There is no outside. It's like a submarine or a spaceship. And in that sense, the walls of the craft are only pierced at a very particular moment of the entrance. You saw in the plan up there, and here is the entrance, which is only very few people are allowed to come in, and is completely enclosed to the outside by an electrically operated steel door that comes down between these very thick sets of walls. It's also interesting that the few that come in are supposed to pass through a decontamination procedure, right? This is what the House of the Future is presented as, right? So this defense against the outside continues inside against all forms of contamination. The bathtub, for example, cleans itself with detergent. They talk about the continuous rounded surfaces that the architects say you can clean the whole house with a damp cloth. Towels are considered also a health hazard, so the shower also has nozzles with hot air, so you don't need to dry yourself. And the bed has an only one seat, because with the controlled temperature, you don't need bed clothing and all the problems of dust mites and all the problems of it. The house, very interestingly, is powered by nuclear energy. The architects insist that the electrical power comes from the nearest atomic power station. Food is also stored for long stays, and the rainwater is collected from the roof, allowing inhabitants, they say, to eventually cut themselves off completely. All the food is bombarded, they say bombarded, with gamma rays, and they clarify an atomic byproduct to kill bacteria, right? So all of this in this house of the future, and then the question I have for you is, what about this garden? What about this garden around which the whole house is organized? Well, there are two keys for this garden. One, they say that the whole inspiration for the house was this 15th century German panel painting, The Garden of Paradise of 1410, which, as you can see, is a fortified garden. They claimed that the whole scene had been reproduced, that they have requested from the Daily Mail that the garden included a tree, some spring flowers, water, even a musical instrument that was appropriate to the future. So the garden, you can say, is a safe space, an imaginary world after or before fear. Indeed, the precise purpose seems to be to use the latest technology precisely to reconstruct the garden that precedes all technology, all fear, the Garden of Eden. But also another interesting clue is this diagram, which is the diagram of the conceptual diagram of the house, which speaks about this vertical tube of unbreathed private air, right? So the fortification is all about producing this tube of air, the unbreathed air, which in many ways uncannily somehow anticipates the current obsessions we have with unbreathed air in airplanes, in restaurants, and in public buildings. Unbreathed air, in a way, is the ultimate measure of privacy in an ever more congested and contaminated world. If the garden is all about innocence and purity, the primary role of the house is to filter the outside world and to produce a quasi-teleological encounter with this empty sky, a sky that is actually made private by the house. The house in the atomic age becomes a kind of vertical bunker built into a solid defense of identical, because you can see there's a diagram, and even more clearly here, that the house is supposed to be next to others, but there's actually no connection with the neighbors. So the atomic life means withdrawal into the ultra-private. Now let's jump to 1958 and the Brussels Expo. So if the house of the future of the Smithsonian of 1956 was the outlier in that exhibition and was powered by nuclear energy, the theme of the entire Expo in Brussels was the peaceful use of nuclear energy, and architecture continued to play a very significant role, starting with the main pavilion, which is called the Atomion, and included two nuclear reactors, BR3 and BR2, which became operative in 1961. Here is the engineer with the model. The Atomion was meant to give form to something that escapes visibility, radiation, but what I'm arguing here is that, again, what really gives visibility to the nuclear power in this exhibition was domestic architecture. Here you have the electric and hydraulic pavilion, which presented the electric house, which is, again, a new domesticity powered by nuclear energy. So, again, modern architecture is used to give visibility to the invisible. The atomic theme of the Expo in Brussels, of course, was not an accident. Congo was then a colony of Belgium. You have here the resources of Congo presented in the exhibition. It was supplying the uranium for nuclear fusion in the US, which was very dependent on Belgium and on Congo. In return, Belgium got apparently the first US nuclear reactor. The Dream Kitchen, therefore, is simultaneously a nuclear product and a new way of living in the atomic, in the space that is of American imperialism and colonial extraction. And there are many more things that one could say about this exhibition, because we don't have much time. But the way in which the people from Congo were represented, for example, there was a whole human zoo in which people from Congo were living in huts, and visitors could see how they were living. Anyway, so very problematic. This is 1964. My last example is the New York World Fair. 2 years after the Cuban Missile Crisis, with the whole country completely obsessed with this problem. The symbol is the Unisphere, which is dedicated to peace through understanding, and of course peace here means avoiding nuclear bomb, the nuclear war. I'm trying to concentrate on this pavilion you see there, which is the General Electric pavilion, which included a series of, this is the General Electric pavilion, which included a series of theatrical sets done by Disney, exhibiting the history of the interior from 1880 to 1964 by tracing the transformation of the house through electricity. But the underside of this dome was a huge, the biggest projection surface in the world, and it showed the longer history of humankind, the domestication of energy, culminating in a nuclear fission presented like a new sun, very dramatic, flashes of thunder and light, and the whole space is lit up in a kind of religious experience. And amazingly enough, then the visitor goes down one floor to see a demonstration of thermonuclear fusion reaction. They say similar to the H bomb that is taking place every 6 minutes at the fair, right? So here you have fusion data and successful experiments 6, unsuccessful experiments 78. So the point here is that nuclear power, which is of course a byproduct of military technology, was presented both as a mass spectacle, but also, as you will see very soon, as a transformation of the interior, a new kind of home for the future. There was also this, the US Office of Civil Defense and the US Atomic Energy Commission presented the whole fallout shelter program, explaining to people how to build their own shelter. Don't you love the Americans? In Europe, all the nuclear shelters were done communally for villages, for cities, etc. In America, they give you a booklet and you are on your own. You can build your own shelter. But they also presented this, this is called Atomsville, USA, and it's an exhibit at the fair, which included a demonstration of nuclear energy for children. But the point here, what I was trying to get at, is the underground house, which General Electric also sponsored, and is a traditional suburban ranch-style house that was powered by nuclear energy, and it was underground. And the project is the project of this fellow, Jay Swayze. Jay Swayze here breaking ground, was a military instructor and an expert in chemical warfare, and he was commissioned by Plainview in Texas to do a demonstration fallout shelter so people knew what to build in their own houses. And he arrived at the conclusion that it was much more logical to go and all live underground. So it seemed more logical, he said, to make the home and its surroundings a safe harbor, because we can not live in constant fear of war, storms, or uncomfortable temperatures. So, I mean, the thing that strikes me here is the equation of war with the weather, which is totally symptomatic, right? So here is the underground pavilion at the fair, and you go down, you see, into this underground house. How would you like to have sunshine every day? So the control of the weather is so extreme that not only you have constant temperature, but you can also control whether you have sunshine or you have rain, depending on your mood, etc. Since the house is very tacky, here are some of the pictures. Since windows to the outside world seem impossible, he did a survey to find out how much value people place on windows, and he concluded that maybe windows are psychologically necessary, but in traditional windows, you actually have to take what you have for a view, and that an artist could do a lot better. So in the house of the future, traditional windows are superimposed on dial view mirrors, and again, every room in the house looks into a panoramic landscape that can be changed at will, and also the time of the day can also be dialed according to the mood or the occasion. Here is the plan. As you can see, even if we are all underground, the distinctions between inside and outside persist. They are made strange. This is the outside patio. This is actually a woman in many of the Americans built an underground house. J. Swazi was very successful. There are thousands and thousands of these houses in Texas, in Colorado, everywhere. This is a woman appearing in Life magazine checking the nuclear blast updates up above. This is the underground house at the fair when it was destroyed and covered up, so you could do an archaeological excavation. And he published this book that was also very successful, Underground Gardens and Home, which included some of the houses that he built all over America. Of course, this woman is painting the garden. But the point, since we don't have time, the point that I wanted to finish with this diagram that he published also in the book, where you see the disaster is above and the good life below. So whether it's the atomic bomb or a tornado is the same to him, and the good life is underneath. This is the so-called atomitat diagram of Swazi, which is exactly the reversal of what I started at the beginning of the good life in America in the 1950s with the underground shelter and the good life above. Now we have entirely reversed by 1964. Thank you very much.